When I started this project, I roughly had an idea of what I wanted to use for the actual steel frame. But once I got down to the yard and actually started pricing steel out, it was very clear to me that it was going to be very expensive very quick. While I was walking around the steel yard, I had found these 4x4 by 40 foot long, 1/8 inch thick tubing. And I thought, I can make these work. Might just need to add a few extra cross braces. Once I got home, I started laying the tubes out so I could kind of see an idea of the overall concept of this. And sure changed from paper to in person. At this point, I knew this trailer was going to be very long, but that's okay. When I started, I had the thought of, I can make this in the backyard, no big deal. But very quickly remembered that I live in the Northwest where it rains almost every single day during the fall, winter, and spring. So at that point, I decided to try to move it inside my garage, knowing that my garage was not as long as my trailer was going to be. As I started to cut the cross members and weld them in every so often, it dawned on me that this trailer was going to be definitely able to take any type of log that the mill would be able to cut. Once all the welds up top were complete, I was forced to flip the entire frame over by myself and start welding on the bottom side. As I was grinding out the areas that I was going to weld in, removing all the galvanized, another huge cell blew in, and so I was more or less at a standstill, just to sit and watch it rain for a little bit. Once all my welds were completed, I decided to prime the trailer one more time over the galvanized. So I cleaned it up, sanded, shot it, and then went back through over the welds one more time with some black paint just to create another layer of protection. The big day. This is the day I went and got the mill and we unloaded it with the skid steer. A few nights later, I decided to start unboxing or uncrating my mill. And it started off with just the quote uncrating, but then I got a little antsy, wanted to check what it truly is going to look like, how it would fit together. Well, 4 hours later, this is what I ended up with. I guess I was a little excited. Originally, I had bought 8 jacks from online, but after waiting 2.5 months of delays and missed shipments, I ended up having to source jacks locally from multiple stores within a 200-mile range. Here is where I painted the trailer. I chose to use an equipment black paint, oil-based. As well as the following week, I ended up marrying up the rails and the bunks onto the trailer to see what it would truly look like all said and done. Once I had the jacks welded in a permanent location, I wanted to start in on my lighting. I chose to use LED lights and I put them about every 2.5 feet. That way it was fully visible from the side as well as at night driving down the road. The last thing I would ever want is somebody not to see it and hit it. Here's a quick time lapse of my father and I going through and installing the cutting head onto the rail system. In my mind, I had assumed that the actual rollers on the head were actually the lowest point of the whole assembly. And as we set it down, I realized that it was not. So I took full advantage of the threaded rod that is actually connected to the steel angle iron and lifted everything up roughly about 1.5 inches, thinking that that should clear it with just very minimum clearance over the jacks. As we lowered the cutting head down, I realized that apparently it's been a while since I've used a tape measure or just completely spaced it. I still had another 1/4 inch of space that I needed, so we decided just to go up a full 1/2 inch. That way it would clear everything, and at the end of the day, after making this minor adjustment again, you could see the cutting head would roll freely. This is the view of everything completed, and all I need to do is break in the motor and find some logs to start cutting. So at the end, I have a 25-foot long trailer that I can cut 23-foot long boards. Hope you guys enjoyed.